Evening guys, welcome to another devotional. Today we're going to be continuing on through the Armour of God series that we started off last week. We're going to be picking up again in Ephesians 6 and we're going to be at verse 14 today. So it says, "Stand your ground, putting on the belt of truth and the body armour of God's righteousness." So the latter half of this verse we'll cover next week, but notice that he says put on the belt of truth and the body armour of God's righteousness. The belt comes first. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, where this is the belt of truth. The belt of truth must be worn first. Now, you think, how are belts used for us nowadays? If we're putting on, body armor or something like that, we first off need to have clothes on underneath that. But we can't just have our clothes flailing about. It's no good for a soldier to go out to war and to have his clothes that are underneath his body armor just flailing about everywhere. That's not going to be helpful. It's going to get caught on things. It might even get caught up, you might get shot, and there are going to be all sorts of problems associated with that. So for a soldier to fight effectively, his clothes need to be tied tight to his body, and that is done by a belt. And Paul is talking, especially using terms that he's seeing Roman soldiers while he's under arrest. He's like, hey, I see these Roman soldiers. They've got their undergarments on, and they've got this belt holding it all together. It's not flapping about everywhere as they're running. It is held tight so that they can fight effectively. And the belt of truth is something that is key for each and every one of us to be wearing. Understanding what is true is key for fighting effectively. If we're fighting against what is true, then we're going to find that we're actually making ourselves the enemy, because we're fighting against what is true, what is right. If we find that we're fighting with false things, then we're actually going to be hurting ourselves. We're not fighting effectively because we don't know those true things that we could be fighting with. So the belt of truth is foundational in our understanding of knowing what is true and actually applying that to our lives. Because it's no good simply saying, oh yeah, I know what is true, but we need to actually apply that to our lives. To say, hey, it's no good me seeing this truth here, but I actually need to put this on. I need to put on the belt of truth. Not just know about it and see the belt. It actually has to be put on for it to be of any use. And likewise for us. So how do we actually put on the belt of truth? Well, Jesus tells us pretty plainly in John 8, verse 31 and 32. He says, Jesus said to the people who believed in him, "You are truly my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." So we put on the belt of truth by knowing and believing God's word, his teachings. We know the truth by reading the word, by reading what he's put there for us to be able to read and understand what is true and what is false, to be able to understand the truth that is held in God's word and every single gem that is in there. So it's not any good us just knowing about it though. We actually have to put on that belt, to not just know about the belt, but to say, hang on a minute, I see this truth and I'm going to apply it. I'm going to put on that belt of truth. To put on the belt so that we can actually then be effective in fighting. So I want to encourage each and every one of you guys today, including myself, to read God's word daily, to know what that truth is, and not just to read it and leave it there, but to read it and apply it to our lives, to put on the belt of truth so that we can fight effectively against all the tactics of the enemy. So God bless you guys, and I'll see you next week.